Today, businesses are expected to do more with less. Less budget, less headcount, less support. But what if the answer isn't less? What if it's more? More capability, more speed, more output without more overhead. That's what EverWorker delivers. Unlock limitless potential with AI workers that perform like real teammates, tailored to your business and specific needs. Go from AI strategy to AI reality with real results fast. No engineering, no complex tech stacks, and no going it alone. Just describe the work and employ your AI worker. It's that simple. And it works. EverWorker gives you the fastest path to create and employ your AI workforce. So stop doing more with less. Start doing more with more. EverWorker, your always-on agentic AI workforce.
So Anton, thank you so much for joining us on this truly huge day where we have officially announced our rebrand from Integrail to EverWorker. So most of us here at this point have been seeing our videos and all the different demos and the products from AI, our Integrail AI Studio. Could you please kind of break things down on how EverWorker Canvas, how you kind of thought about it in the first place, as well as what is the major difference between Integrail's AI Studio and EverWorker Canvas?
Yeah, great question, Austin. Well, we started building the first version of Integrail at the end of 2023, I want to say. Even before we launched the company, it was kind of my hobby project. Then obviously we started the company, we built a great developer team. And when we released the product, which was October last year, we learned a lot, both while we were building it and while we were talking to our first customers. And also the industry was not obviously staying at one place. There lots of developments have been happening. So basically we really thought all of it, all of this input that we got from all those conversations and research. And we came with the new version of the product. And the Canvas is actually just one part of it. It's a whole platform that is integrated with enterprise infrastructures, and there is a whole vision behind it. I think we thought a lot in terms of what we want to put in the product. And maybe to make it more helpful, I could share some visuals. So this one is basically a very, very, very simplified top-level structure of the product that we are releasing that's going to be available for all the customers in June. It has 3 levels, and all of them are based on what we have been building and what we have learned, and on a lot of design sessions and reading research papers and listening to what our customers have to say. So the foundation layer is a so-called universal connector. This is a development of what we used to call universal API in our current product. Basically what it allows you to do, it allows you to connect to any system in the world if it has an API. If it has documentation, an example of usage, human language documentation, we will take it, we will convert it automatically, and all of your agents that we started calling workers with this rebranding, because we truly believe it better reflects what they are. This is not software. There is a lot of debate. What is AI? Is it software? Is it not? No, we do believe that it's better to treat the AI workers as your workforce, not as the software, for many, many reasons. But the point is, using this universal connector layer, it's the foundation of our product. It allows you to both read the data from any kind of system you use in your enterprise environment, as well as make changes to those systems when you design a worker a certain way to use those systems. And I will show you a little bit in terms of how it looks like in this and future videos as well. The second layer that is very important, and that is also a development of what we started building in the current version of the product, is what we now call Enterprise Knowledge Engine. Basically, this is a development of what we used to call vector memory. And this allows you to use the same approach, but taken to the next level. So basically now every customer will be able to set up once or as many times as needed which files, which systems, which document sources, which emails to convert into the enterprise knowledge engine. And we will take it, we will automatically convert all those documents into vectorized form. We will keep them synchronized. We will respect all the visibility requirements and security requirements that have been set up in the enterprise infrastructure. And we will make all that knowledge available to every worker that you use inside of your own system. And this is an amazingly huge step because a lot of people are debating, okay, how do we start building agents? Do we need a data lake first? Do we provide some sort of custom conversion? You don't need to think about any of that with Enterprise Knowledge Engine. It all happens automatically. And then in the next versions, we will actually be adding the graph knowledge there as well, which further improves reasoning capabilities of the workers, but we are starting with just the vectorized enterprise knowledge engine in the current version. And then finally, of course, we made a lot of changes to what is possible to do in terms of building the workers. And those of you who are familiar with our current version, it's a visual drag and drop designer that allows you to create workflows that are AI enabled. And this way we have been able to create a lot of what we are now calling specialized workers, which are basically workflows that happen step by step by calling different APIs, maybe doing some basic reasoning by LLMs. But even these types of workers, they are able to do a lot of very well defined jobs, helping humans or instead of humans and freeing them up for more creative type of work. So we will continue doing that. We are making some very interesting improvements, which we will cover in the next series. And then we are also adding a completely new type of workers, which we are now calling universal workers. Basically, these guys, they are able to not just reason with you, not just use different knowledge sources to do that reasoning, but they're also able to interact with many other systems using this universal connector layer and make changes to those systems. So basically, this is the new level of the workers that we're introducing in our tool. And this is what I would like to focus on mostly in our today's presentation.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Anton. Now, I know, like, before we dive in, too deep into the actual solutions here, I'd love to hear, you're always working with clients, with customers, talking, thought leadership wise, also in the industry as a whole. When you were thinking about building this second product, this V2 of EverWorker Canvas, what were some of those biggest pain points that you were seeing almost across the board from businesses that really led to you pretty much building this product?
Right. Well, I would say there are two probably biggest challenges that our customers are telling us, or even not telling us, but we realize that they're having them. The first one, which might be the hardest for many people still out there, is what to start with. Like what is possible? What kind of worker can I build to do something in my organization? And this is where it's not just the product, but it's also the whole setup of our company, as you have discussed many times, is that we have a services team that comes in, talks to the customer, tries to understand the biggest pain points, and we find several business processes that are possible to convert into workers very fast and that bring the most cost savings or ROI. That's where we start. That's our uniqueness apart from many other vendors. And then the second point, I would say, it's still ease of use. So our product, even in its current version, it's drag and drop. It does not require any programming at all. It's built from scratch, so it's very nimble, scalable, and fast. However, it still required certain technical thinking in terms of which field to connect to which field, and sometimes that was a little bit overwhelming. It was a little bit of a learning curve for people. So in the new version, we are making the design of new workers much easier. So the universal workers, as we will see, is simply defining 3 steps that we call knowledge, brain, and skills. And then for specialized workers, there is a lot that we are outsourcing to universal workers that help us create those specialized workers. But then if you want to get into nitty and gritty, we still provide a workflow interface that's been also much simplified so that you don't need to think about which field to connect to which field, but you still get a visual representation of what happens after what, which is helpful if you want to have full control.
And I think that brings up kind of a funny point maybe in the industry. And I mean, funny in a way that it's actually not funny at all. It's actually probably a big pain point to a lot of people. But thinking about this from a developer standpoint on your end, if someone were at their company, at their business, trying to maybe create AI agents or even something that resembles an AI worker like we have, maybe like the legacy way, even though it's still rather new, if they had to code things by hand, all that, how difficult would that be to kind of recreate that on their own?
This was sort of one of the inspirations or motivations for me personally to build this platform, even though, as you mentioned, I do have a technical background as well, and I actually did enjoy writing code, not necessarily in all of the languages that are popular right now. But I do know that developers oftentimes, they like using the libraries, they like developing. However, it takes, I would say, at least 10 times as much time and maybe even more to create the same agent using our platform compared to coding, even using code assistants. And even if you use code assistants, the challenge is not so much, to produce that code, but you have to actually understand that code to be able to then maintain it, launch it, have all kinds of DevOps infrastructure around it. How do you run a bunch of different agents or workers that you created? So there is a whole range of issues that lie beyond programming per se to be able to use a platform like that. So we believe we make life for customers much, much, much easier. But it's not just that. Actually, the talent for developers who are able to create those agents efficiently is pretty scarce. So if you are not Microsoft or Google, you probably can't really afford those people on your team. That's where we come in. We make it very easy for hopefully any business user to create a specialized worker for their needs and start getting value right away.
I think before we actually dive into learning more from the inside, and kind of just learning more in general about the product, everyone's always argument, like what even is an AI agent? What's the definition? And we're really trying to change the paradigm to the idea of AI workers. And in our case, EverWorkers. Could you take some time and really break it down? What is an AI worker and maybe how is it fundamentally different than what traditionally people would call an AI agent?
Yeah, that's a great question, and again, I don't think there is any traditional meaning of AI agent. I think everybody means something of their own by what they mean by AI agent or agent per se. And that's why, again, we want to get away from this technical debate. It's basically who cares how it's built internally, what kind of LLMs, how they interact, and what kind of APIs they're calling. If there is a tool that allows you to focus on the end result. And of course, we provide full visibility on what's under the hood. And basically, our workers are AI agents in a sense. Or if you talk about specialized workers, they're more like AI workflows. But again, I don't think it's the terminology really matters. I think the important thing that we try to promote is that workers or agents, they're not software. They are part of your team. They are like humans that help your actual human workers be much, much more productive. And as you know, we do use those workers internally quite a bit. We do use them in the development team all over, and it makes us much, much more productive. We use them in the business team. And that's what we want our customers to sort of get on the straight and start thinking about these guys as actual workers, colleagues, even to a certain sense, versus agents, software, or whatever else other people are calling them.
Honestly, who cares what what it is. Is it doing the job for you that you want it to do? It doesn't matter what you're going to actually call it, as long as it's
Right.
doing the job and doing the work that you're looking for it. So it's a great point that I think more people in the industry and all these people are hearing these buzzwords about, especially in our case, hearing about MCP and all these different things, and they just think based off of, oh, I've heard that word and I've heard
Yeah,
this influencer
exactly.
talk about it, and it just doesn't matter as long
Yeah,
as it's doing the
yeah.
actual work that you need to do.
Very, I think, important point because there is just so much buzz happening. Every day somebody comes up with something new and people overhype it. But I mean, it's not about buzz, it's about doing actual work. So, what we encourage our customers to do also just come, try, see for yourselves. And if you see results being achieved, it's something that matters most.
All right, Anton. So thank you so much for kind of the background there and kind of going into the technicalities for the most part of how we got here. And now for the start of the show, I would love if you would show everyone EverWorker platform and kind of the things that are actually inside that we can start to see.
So, as mentioned, there is a lot that's coming in the new version in the EverWorker platform. So we will not be able to cover everything in this video, but I'll make a couple of highlights and then focus primarily on the universal worker because that's where we do believe a significant advantage lies. Of course, together with enterprise knowledge engine and the foundation, which is the universal connector. But in terms of interacting with actual users, that's where most of the interesting things are happening. So with that, let me just also say a couple of other introductory words. First of all, this is a fully single tenant solution, so it's not SaaS. It's deployed either in your private cloud, or it can be deployed, of course, on public cloud, but for your exclusive use as a customer, and it can be deployed on-prem as well. Also in version 1, it's completely integrated with Microsoft infrastructure from the get-go. We will be adding all the other vendors gradually. But for now, if you're a Microsoft shop, it's a no-brainer. You can install it and it just works integrated with your full environment from day one. There is single sign-on, so people don't need to register. There is respect of the authorization authentication for users, groups, etc., etc. So basically, you get all the benefits of your fine-tuned Microsoft infrastructure when you're working with EverWorker. So having said that, let me just highlight a little bit the universal connector because we do believe it's an amazing feature that will enable all of our customers to build anything they like much faster than anything else. Let me just show real quick a small preview of what we have in our small test deployment. So basically the way it's going to work is that we are monitoring the documentation sites for API for all major vendors. Here you see only 4. We are monitoring tens of them right now, and it's going to be hundreds by the time of the release. And the idea is we grab the documentation, we analyze it, we convert it to an internal format that makes us able to let our workers call any APIs from those vendors. And that's where the versatility and power comes. So in a sense, any worker that you can build on the EverWorker platform is able to use any of the APIs we make available. It's not just that. If something is missing, you can add your own provider template for your own API that you have written yourself and it's internal, and it will be completely standardized the same way. And also the beautiful thing is that you don't need to even think about this browsing, downloading, converting. It's all done on our centralized server. And then you will just synchronize those providers that you need. So if you need Microsoft, you'll get Microsoft. If you need Google, you'll get Google, etc., etc. And then we'll automatically synchronize all the latest and greatest API formats with your local installation so that you can be sure it all works and then nothing breaks for you in production. For the more technical people, you will have full control of what APIs are available. You can see the full list. It's grouped into different operation groups. You can check every operation, what it does. And then we are using these descriptions and these operation definitions inside of the product, again, to make them available, searchable for every worker that you are creating. So this universal connector is a very interesting foundation for everything we do on the platform. And not just that, but again, it propagates to every customer to ensure that you have latest and greatest definitions of every API that's available out there. So again, as I mentioned, today let's focus on the universal workers, and we will be revealing the other features in the upcoming videos. And with that, let's just look at how easy it is to create a universal worker. Actually, much easier than a specialized worker that we've been building so far. Basically, it's just a wizard with a few steps. You can select a certain template for your universal worker, or you can build it from scratch in 3 easy steps. The steps, as I mentioned, are knowledge, brain, and skills, as we call them, or knowledge, brain, and tools, depending on the language you want to use. The first step is selecting knowledge sources. And here, of course, we recommend to make web search available to every worker so that they're able to search the web, read the documents from the web, and manipulate them. But then, of course, once you have configured the enterprise knowledge engine, you will be able to add other corporate sources as a source of knowledge for the worker you are building. The next step, which is the most interesting, is defining a brain for your worker, where you will have to choose a model, the large language model that will serve as the foundation of your worker. And we provide all the details about the models that we support, and we support all the major vendors, or you can add your own models that deployed in your perimeter on-premise or in your private clouds. There is a separate settings for that. And then you have to define the instructions, which is the modus operandi for the brain of our worker. And again, templates help here quite a bit, but even without templates, there are instructions that explain what needs to be put into every section. And this way you are able to get a nice and high performant worker. But again, we are providing a lot of templates out of box. We encourage you to start working with them directly first, interacting with them. Then once you get which ones you like, which ones you don't like, you can see how they are built inside and build your workers based on that. And then finally, after the instructions, you can also make some documents as part of the permanent memory of your brain. So you can add any document, you can paste text directly, or you can add a certain URL, and then this document becomes part of your brain in a sense that it becomes a part of the context with every interaction with the large language model that sits behind this brain. This means that it's kind of a foundational knowledge for your agent. It will always use it with every interaction, regardless of any other context like chat history or documents that users provide to your agent or your worker. This permanent knowledge will always sit there. And this helps us create specialized universal workers. For instance, if you are building a sales assistant, you might want to provide sales rules of engagement and some product documentation as permanent memory. This way, your worker will always know the key messages and the rules of how your sales team should operate, and it won't have to do any additional searching in the knowledge sources when it provides answers. And then, of course, all the external knowledge sources are still available, but it's just an additional step in terms of doing the search. For permanent knowledge, no search is necessary. So once you have defined the brain, the final step is adding tools or skills that your worker should be able to manipulate. And here we make all of those APIs that have been set up in your system available for your worker. So you can click on the provider, you can pick any of the groups, and you can add this operation, this API call, as part of the tool, a part of the skill to your worker. And apart from that, you will be able to also add specialized workers, which I currently don't have built on the system. We will look at it next time. But you can use specialized workers as skills for your universal workers. And this way, you can create teams of AI workers managed by other AI workers that work on very complex tasks very efficiently. This is something that we are very excited about. But even beyond that, or before that, without that, the ability to call all the different APIs adds a lot of power. So once that is done, you just define the worker name, you add some description, and then it will be created and you can start interacting with it. So let me now do a quick demo of what universal workers can do. As you can see here on the right, you have a nice up-to-date summary of your current context usage, so that you can keep track on the tokens you are spending, on the history of messages you are looking at, etc., etc. So we always give this fine-tuned, fine-grained control over how you interact with your workers. But let me just start a new session, and of course you can interact with this universal worker just with any universal chat assistant that you are familiar with. But not just that, as I mentioned, it's integrated into your corporate systems and can call APIs. It can do pretty much anything that your infrastructure allows. For instance, I can ask it to read my last 3 emails, or however many, it doesn't matter, and the worker will perform this for me. So this is something that has been pre-configured, so it's asked for additional confirmation, and now it calls a certain API that allows it to read my last 3 emails, and then it generates a summary. So as you can see, there is some summary of the actual emails that I am getting. So this is something that is directly integrated into the systems that we have. But again, as I mentioned, it's not just reading things, but it's also making updates. For instance, I can ask it to make a draft review. Like now I'm talking to Austin. He invited me to record what we are doing right now. I can ask it to reply to Austin, and the answer will be created in my emails draft folder, etc., etc. So basically anything you can do via Microsoft API, this worker will try to assist you with that. But it's not just that, it is also able to execute pretty complex tasks. For instance, we are following research very closely on AI and try to bring it to product as fast as we can. So we can do things like find last AI papers on archive, select the top 3 most interesting about Agentic AI, and summarize them for me. And this task, it's not just a single tool or skill call. It will require our worker to actually do a sequence of steps. And that's exactly what they are trained or instructed to do. So as you can see, it has done an initial search. It told me what papers it thinks are the most interesting, and then it actually calls other tool that allows it to read every link here. It does just that, and then it provides a summary to me. Then there is of course a link. I can open this paper, I can read it myself, or I can ask it something like, please read the 3rd one and give me a detailed summary. And then it will just go, it will read this one and provide the summary to me. And again, you can do it not just with the web search, but you can do it with all the internal knowledge sources such as SharePoint or other documentation that you have attached here. And as you can see, it has performed just that. So basically these universal workers, they're able to come up with certain workflows even on the fly. Like here, what we see here is that It did some search, it analyzed the results, then it read 3 different URLs, it analyzed those results, it provided an answer. This is a ready-made workflow to do a certain type of research. We can convert it to a specialized worker, and we don't even need to use that node-based drag and drop interface that we have in our current version, even though we do provide it now. But we made it much more simplified, and we will be relying on our universal workers to create your specialized workers as much as possible. This is something that's also very exciting for us, but we will talk about it in the next video.
This is amazing, Anton. One question that immediately comes to my head is when you were building, especially the universal worker capabilities, and in conjunction with always talking to customers, if you wouldn't mind, just based off of your knowledge on what are customers wanting, what kind of things do you think this universal worker would be able to help customers kind of answer problems or provide solutions for? What are the biggest things that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much any interactive type of job, that's where universal workers perform the best. So customer support is a great candidate for this because it can be interactive and it can be looking for solution, not just by, analyzing internet or internal knowledge bases, but also by analyzing the log files, for instance, that are relevant. And then it can go through some reasoning steps and provide an actual answer. So of course here you would want to use a universal worker versus specialized, where we just define the steps in advance, because at some point we might need some steps which we haven't even thought about. That's where these universal workers shine. So any type of interactive help to customers, partners, employees, but also, I mean, any type of specialized assistance on many cases. For instance, we use this type of universal workers ourselves when we're building the product. And it's not just, the code assistant that we took from some other vendor, even though there are a lot of great ones. But this one is already integrated into your infrastructure. It knows all our internal documents, not just the code base, but also our goals, our marketing documents. So it actually performs much better for us in writing code as well. So I would say anywhere where the task is not predefined, not deterministic, where you need some wider knowledge and thinking and reasoning, these universal workers will shine. But this is something really new to us as well. We are sure we will experiment a lot ourselves with our customers, and we will see what is the best way to use them. But we do believe that using universal workers together with specialized workers that are provided as skills to your universal workers opens up amazing horizons for what's possible.
If anyone is interested in being a part of all this and seeing more, you can of course go to our website at everworker.ai and book a demo with us. And Anton, I want to thank you for taking us through this amazing first pass through of the EverWorker platform. And after hearing all this, I'm extremely excited to see this continue to grow and grow. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
Thank you, Austin. Now I just want to echo what you just said. Again, we are always excited as usual. So if you have ideas, if you want to have demos, if you have ideas for this worker, so if you have questions and challenges for us, we are more than happy to always talk. Visit our website, press the button, request a demo, drop us a note on LinkedIn or an email, and we'll be happy to work with you.